Hi everybody, Peter here. Right, so it's story time again today, but we're going to have a positive twist on it. A lot of people say that some of my videos are quite negative and a little bit depressing. They're not meant to be. They're just stories that get sent to me or I know firsthand. And unfortunately, some of them are like that. So I've been going through people's stories today. I get sent a lot of stories. This involves two people, and for the sake of the story, I've used the girl's real name because the guy doesn't mind, but I'm calling the guy Melvin. So it's Melvin and Pon, that's the name of the lady. So just very quickly, I want to tell you that Melvin, his native language isn't English. He doesn't speak English as his number one language. So as I'm reading this out as he's written it, he hasn't made a huge amount of mistakes, and I've made some changes, but they will sort of show up as I'm reading them. So let's jump straight into this one, and I hope you enjoy this one. Okay, and this took place in 1987, by the way. So you know, when he's discussing money and things, you'll understand as I'm reading it. Okay, let me tell you first. English isn't my main language, so bear with me. My story begins the day my girlfriend and I had an awful fight. We decided to call it a day, and she made it clear to me I'd never see our two-year-old boy again. I was sad and upset, but we weren't married, and I had no chance of winning. Should I have gone to court? I forgot to tell you, I'm writing from Scandinavia. I had no option but to leave the 4-bedroom apartment we lived in and the car, a nearly new Mazda 626 we owned together. Shows you how long ago it was. A friend offered to let me a one-room apartment. The friend had a huge collections of films on videos. One day we were watching the well-known film The Deer Hunter featuring Robert De Niro. Then my friend told me one of the pictures were shot in Thailand. This is the reason why I chose to visit the land of smiles, as I was getting more and more depressed and wanted to travel as far as possible from Scandinavia. Maybe not. This is what he's wrote. I had a couple of $1,000 I'd saved, and one day I found myself in a travel agency booking a stay at Asia Hotel because I figured out it wasn't far away from Patpong. Anybody who has been in Bangkok knows this isn't the case, but Asia Hotel was fully booked and the agency suggested Indra Regent Hotel with cheaper rooms. I wasn't happy about that, but I had no choice. Later on in years to come, after my journeys to Thailand and after I'd stayed at the Asia Hotel, I discovered that the Indra Regent was a better hotel anyway. Thai Airways possesses nowadays a fleet of new aircraft, but back then in September of 1987 they had one old McDonnell Douglas, at least for the route from Scandinavia to Bangkok. All the passengers had boarded the plane when we heard the captain say, "I'm your captain," can't remember his name. The crew and myself are sorry, but one of the engines has some issues. We don't know how long it's going to take to get repaired, so we're asking everyone to disembark. I remember it was 2 p.m. Many passengers got upset or afraid because they asked to cancel their tickets with Thai Airways. From the 200 passengers or so inside the plane, we were left only about 20 as we sat there in the lounge watching in disbelief how many mechanics were reversing and refurbishing the engine. It was well after 9 p.m, 7 hours later, that the rest of us boarded the aircraft again. I won't talk very much about the journey itself, but let me say that Thai Airways spoiled us, treating us like first-class passengers. We drank champagne and exotic wine, ate first-class food, but for the sake of this story, I must add something else. For reasons I've never understood, this bit gets interesting now. For reasons that I've never understood, a passenger came and sat down next to me. There were a lot of free seats on the aircraft. We talked, and the man told me he was an engineer, computer engineer, and he was on his way to Thailand to train Thai students or to repair how to repair computers. Remember, this was back in '87, guys, so they were relatively new. I don't remember exactly, but I do remember his uncompromising critics against what he called sex tourists. The government should forbid this sort of thing. It's a disgrace. He stated those tourists dehumanize women. I'm a father of 3 children. I love them. I love my wife. I can't understand people messing around with bar girls. I remained silent. What could I have said anyway? Luckily enough, he didn't ask my opinion, maybe because he had drunk too much champagne and he suddenly stopped talking. I then noticed he had fallen asleep. We landed at Don Mueang Airport around 3 p.m. the day after. It would take too long to tell about my first impressions in Thailand. Now, remember, guys, sorry to cut in, but this would have been before the Sky Train, the Underground, all that sort of thing. But coming from Scandinavia, the sun hit me like a punch and my shirt was immediately soaked with sweat. At the travel agency, I was told one should negotiate a taxi fare, but with the sun killing me, I had not time for that, so I took the first taxi I saw. I was lucky. The driver, I can say his name, so much time has passed by. Sarit, that's the name of the taxi driver. Surprise, he spoke better English than my school teacher English. He drove me to the hotel and I paid him double the fare. Remember, guys, it's his first time in Thailand, okay? Why? Well, we've been talking during the ride into town. Traffic jams aren't a joke in Bangkok, so we had time to chat, and Sarit had told me about his life. He had a travel agency in Phuket. His partner had cheated on him. He had gone bankrupt, but he hoped to start again with the money from his taxi driving. Not sure though, he said after a while, my boss is so stingy. He was telling me all his misfortunes in a humorous way that we were laughing like old friends. Before entering the hotel, I asked him if he could come and pick me up around 10 p.m. I wanted to go to Patpong, the place I'd heard so much about. When the receptionist woke me up, it was about 10:30 p.m. and I was told somebody was waiting for me downstairs. A quick shower later, I took the elevator and I saw Sarit standing by the exit talking with someone. It was the engineer who had spoken to me so strongly against prostitution during the flight. What a coincidence that he had chosen the same hotel. I said hello to both and told the engineer, "Are you stalking me?" We all laughed and Sarit said he'd drive us to Patpong and then come back to pick us up around 2 a.m. There are no words to describe the Patpong I saw for the first time in my life. The pungent smell of food, of perfume, of decaying garbage, neon lights twinkling everywhere, touts inviting you to visit a particular go-go bar, loads of girls talking loudly and laughing, tourists talking different languages. It was wonderful. Great description, wasn't it? I said to myself, this is the Asia I've been reading about. This is crazy and this is paradise. Sarit showed us a go-go bar, saying it was the best one and clients weren't ripped off, or most likely Sarit was getting commission from the owners. That evening there weren't many people inside. From time to time the bouncer would open the door, shout something in Thai, and all the girls on the stage would suddenly undress. I've never seen anything like that in my life. The engineer and I sat around the stage and one of the girls kept looking at us all the time while dancing. After a while I felt the need to visit the toilet, and when I came back I saw the engineer and the girl sitting together around a table distant from the stage. I smiled at them both, but I didn't join them. At 2 o'clock, Sarat came back, and despite all the excitement in the air, I was starting to feel jet lagged and tired. I did ask him about this. I mean, so basically the taxi driver dropped them off, but he did take them to that go-go bar and he kept nipping out to, pick up passengers and stuff. So he said whatever was going on, he would be back at 2. It might be a bit confusing. Okay, carry on with his story. I wanted to go back to my hotel, but the engineer told me the evening was still young as far as he was concerned and he wanted to stay, so Sarit drove me back to the hotel. The next morning I was getting out from the lift to go to the restaurant and have my breakfast when I nearly bumped into a man and a girl entering the same lift. The man avoided my glance. Too late. It was the engineer with the girl from the go-go bar we had visited the night before. I stayed 1 month at the Indria region, but I didn't see the engineer anymore. He probably got embarrassed and had moved to another hotel. Sarat and I became friends. He would drive me anywhere but wouldn't charge me. Nevertheless, I'd pay him anyway, generously. I'd invite him for dinner and sometimes just give him money for the sake of making him happy. The second night back to Patpong again in the same go-go bar. This time the place was full of people and I had the impression also there were more girls than the previous night. And again the bouncer would shout something and all the girls on stage would undress. Later on, Sarat explained to me this happens, why this happens. The bouncer was saying there's no police around, so you can all get undressed and get up on stage. Anyway, I noticed one girl wasn't taking off her bikini she was on stage, but she wasn't taking off her bikini like the others. and then she'd go, when it was her break, she'd sit by herself. As you know, these places aren't very well lit, but I could see the girl was rather dark in complexion, and obviously no one was paying much attention to her. Yet as far as I was concerned, she was beautiful, and besides coming from Scandinavia, where everybody is pale, the girl enticed my curiosity. Sarit had just come back for a while after having driven a client. I offered him a beer and said, pointing at the dark girl, that somehow I liked her. Sarit answered, why her? She's certainly a farmer's daughter from a village in Isan. And then he explained to me Isan was the poorest region in Thailand. You can do better than that, he added, but I insisted. Sarat went and talked to the bouncer and came back. Yes, she's a country girl, can't dance, refuses to undress, and certainly will be fined. So this is Sarit has asked the bouncer about her and passed on this information. I told Sarit to go and bring her to my table. She came back walking awkwardly on her high heels and why'd me. You know, where they do this one. That's a why, if you haven't been to Thailand before. Sarit said something to her and she sat down and asked for her drink. She nodded and a lady drink was brought to her. Sarit would go out, drive clients, come back, and I'd use him as an interpreter every night he was present, because I couldn't communicate with Pon, the girl's name. Her English was non-existent. I bought her 8 ladies drinks, I think. Remember, we are in the year 1987 and I had a lot of dollars with me. Now, I don't remember exactly, but I wanted to go back to my hotel, and Sarit translated to the girl. She looked at me in a bizarre way. I don't find the words to describe her glance, and then said something very quickly to Sarit. She's telling you that the bar is closing soon, and if you want her and wait a bit, you can take her without paying the bar fine. I have fond memories of Pon. I arranged with Indra Hotel to pay for a double room, and Pon stayed with me the whole month, never asking me for any money, maybe because I've told her I didn't want people to think she's a bar girl, so I'd give her money to pay in the restaurant where we went for dinner. I'd give her money to pay for anything I wanted, and she'd give me back the rest of the money. If we have to take a tuk-tuk or a taxi when Sarit wasn't available, she'd negotiate and pay. I was the one who asked her if she wanted something, so I remember buying her 2 bras, 2 sarongs and 3 pairs of shoes. One day Sarit advised me to buy her a gold chain. I did, but I never saw Pon wear it. And I know the sort of comments I'm going to get now. I've read that bit, but remember, you're probably experienced with Thailand. This was the guy's first time. I remember us going to the movie at Siam Square to see Year of the Dragon. I remember Pon taking my hand in the darkness, putting it on her chest and whispering in English, I love you. So she spoke a little bit of English then. The last letter in my name is an I, but I in Thai is pronounced like an N. I was touched, but I had to force myself not to laugh because she was pronouncing my name in a funny way. I must say something about the film featuring, among other actors, Mickey Rourke and the half-Japanese Dutch actress. I would see the film again later on in Europe. Much to my surprise, I saw the actress in the scene where she was completely nude, yet this particular scene was deleted when I saw the film in Bangkok. I hate censorship, and I thought what Thai moral authorities could have done if they wanted absolutely to censor this film was to cut off many extremely brutal and bloody scenes instead of depriving viewers from admiring this beautiful girl's naked body. Pon was extremely jealous. She'd pinch me in the arm if she thought I was sitting too much at if I was staring too much at other girls. Sometimes she'd simply say, me naked for you. Pon was meticulously clean. She never let me touch her after a walk or after we'd been out for dinner unless she goes first to the bathroom and has a shower. One weekend we decided to go and spend a weekend in Pattaya. The first night she got her I don't really want to say that word, you know, the ladies' trouble that they get once a month. And she put a pillow between us so our bodies wouldn't touch. She never used makeup, but liked very much an expensive French perfume I had brought on the aircraft. My initial intention was to give it to my former girlfriend. After all, she was my mother's she was my mother's kid. But and there's a swear word there. I offered it to Pon. Sometimes when Sarat wasn't present, she'd look at me and talk Thai in a long monologue. I'd ask her to repeat it in front of Sarit, but she wouldn't. Even though for obvious reasons there wasn't much talking between us, sometimes we'd burst into laughter for reasons I don't remember. We're on the last page now. The night before I had to take my plane back home, Pon refused to make love to me. She was just crying, even in the taxi. I didn't know what to say, what to do in order to cheer her up. Sarit was absent. He had gone to Phuket and had promised to return after a few days, but he hadn't come back. At the airport, I handed Pon an envelope with a lot of $100 notes inside. She was crying. Then suddenly she gave me a quick and very hard hug. I put my suitcase on the scale to weigh it, showed my ticket. When I looked back to see Pon, she had gone. She'd disappeared. She had that envelope, didn't she? I'm not going to say anything. It took a few years before I could travel back to Thailand. Needless to say, I looked for Pon and Sarit in vain. The GoGo bar where I've met her has changed name. Sometimes I wonder if it was a dream or just a story I've made up. Well, I still have pictures of Pon. I made them with a camera when Canon launched the EOS series. Mine was the EOS 600. Today, for sure, I can tell I should have handled the situation better. For instance, to ask Sarit to tell Pon to give me her address. Today, I know the Thailand I saw and experienced with Pon in 1987 has gone forever. That Thailand doesn't exist anymore, like Pon doesn't exist anymore. Nowadays, Farangs are just walking ATM machines. But again, after my breakdown back home emotionally, I wasn't ready for love, if any. But oh God, how much I miss Pon's soft and well-scented skin. Yeah, I'll always miss that special feeling when you sense the girl is entirely for you and with you, and that was Pon. P.S. I made a lot of pictures, but time has passed by. I can't remember right now where I put them. Anyway, here are two pictures with Pon. The last one in my hotel room. The day I was packing things before heading to the airport. Pon looks old and ugly, but she has been crying the whole night and her face is swollen. She couldn't even smile. She was 23 years old, which means 22, as you know. The photo isn't to be shown. He sent me a couple of pictures and I've seen those pictures. Obviously, I can't show them to you because he asked me not to, so that's fair enough. Don't forget, guys, if you've got a story and you'd like to share it, I will change names. I won't give the game away, as it were. People do like to hear these stories. Apologies if a lot of them come across as negative, but unfortunately a lot of the bar girl stories end up that way, and I'm just, you know, telling the story as it comes into me. Okay, that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time round.